Welcome to Pages to Dialogues, your premier destination for insightful discussions on Christian books. Join me as we delve into the pages of thought-provoking Christian literature and explore the timeless truths and principles that can transform our lives. From classic devotionals to contemporary bestsellers, we'll engage in meaningful dialogues that will inspire, encourage, and challenge you to grow deeper in your faith. So, subscribe to Pages to Dialogues now and join the conversation. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can stay updated on new episodes and exclusive content. Let's turn pages into conversations that matter.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're the podcast where we really plunge into a whole stack of sources. History, psychology, ancient wisdom, personal stories, and try to pull out the most vital knowledge for you.
Yeah, distill it down.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into something our sources are calling counterfeit gods.
Right.
And we're going to explore how even, the best things in life can kind of subtly become these ultimate things.
And how they shape our desires, but also sometimes drive our deepest despair.
Yeah. Where do we even start with that?
Well, maybe with a stark reminder,
Yeah.
a really sobering one. Think about what happened when these counterfeit gods fail.
Okay.
Remember the string of suicides after the 2008 economic crisis, especially among people who'd been, very wealthy, really well connected.
A grim time.
It really was. You had the acting CFO of Freddie Mac, the chief executive of a big real estate auction firm.
Right.
A French money manager lost $1.4 billion of client money.
Yeah.
In the Madoff thing, took his own life. And a Bear Stearns executive found out he wasn't getting hired by the firm that bought them out, overdosed, and jumped from his office.
God, that's awful. A friend of his said something simple, didn't he?
Yeah, this thing broke his spirit, just broke him.
It really makes you think of the suicides back after the 1929 crash, too. Same pattern.
It is. And what's really striking, what connects this, is an observation from way back, Alexis de Tocqueville, in the 1830s.
Visiting America, right?
Exactly. And he noticed this strange melancholy that haunts the inhabitants in the midst of abundance. Even with everything, there was this underlying sadness.
He thought prosperity alone couldn't satisfy that deep human need for happiness.
That's exactly it. He said the incomplete joys of this world will never satisfy the human heart. Never fully.
So this strange melancholy, it can become real despair when that prosperity, that incomplete joy disappears.
Yes. When we take one of those incomplete joys and build our whole life, our whole meaning around it, that's what our sources say is the core of idolatry.
It's not just like ancient statues then.
No, not just that. It's losing something you've made ultimate, and then you're left inconsolable with nothing else. That's what breaks your spirit.
Okay. So our mission here in this deep dive.
Yeah, is to really unpack how anything, especially the good things, can become one of these counterfeit gods.
And look at how it influences us.
Yeah.
Individually, socially.
And hopefully give you a kind of shortcut to understanding these hidden drivers. Maybe find some real freedom.
Okay. Let's start with just how widespread this is. Pervasive. You mentioned the Apostle Paul visiting Athens.
Right. And he sees a city filled with images of divinities. Aphrodite for beauty, Ares for war, Artemis for wealth, Hephaestus for craftsmanship.
Gods for everything.
Pretty much. And what's fascinating is our modern world, even though we think we're so sophisticated, fundamentally the desires are the same. We just have different shrines.
Like office towers, spas, gyms.
Studios, stadiums. Yeah. These are places where we make sacrifices, right? Time, energy, relationships even.
All to get the blessings of the good life as we see it and avoid disaster.
Exactly. The same ancient drives are there. Beauty, power, wealth, recognition, still driving us.
So we might not kneel to Aphrodite, but the sources mention eating disorders, body image obsession.
Absolutely. Especially among young people. It's a modern form of beauty worship, causing real depression.
And maybe not burning incense to Artemis, but making career and money everything.
Yeah, elevating it to this cosmic level. And the sources make this chilling point. It's like a modern child sacrifice.
How so?
Neglecting family, community, even your own health, just to climb higher, get more money, more status.
Wow. The sources say ancient gods were bloodthirsty, hard to please.
And in a way, these modern idols still are. They demand a lot.
It sounds like an addiction, a spiritual addiction, as the sources call it.
That's a great way to put it. Like any addiction, they kind of hide their true size from us.
You don't see how much control they have.
No.
Oh.
And you find yourself taking bigger risks for less satisfaction until, bang,
Yeah.
a breakdown.
And then you look back and think, what was I thinking?
How could I be so blind? Yeah. You act irrationally, lose sight of your values.
This makes me think of literature. Tolkien, The Ring of Power.
Oh, perfect example. It's described as a psychic amplifier. Right?
Yeah. It takes good desires, wanting to free slaves, protect your home,
Go to things.
and just blows them up, magnifies them into this idolatrous obsession.
Turns a good thing into the only thing. Overrides everything else. Loyalty, values, gone.
And the wearer gets addicted, enslaved by it.
It becomes the thing we cannot live without. That's the definition of an idol, really.
And it drives you to break rules, harm people, even yourself.
Which leads to this fundamental point many traditions make. Anything can be an idol, and everything has been an idol.
Anything, not just the obvious ones like money or sex.
Literally anything. Think about it.
Okay, give me some examples from the sources.
Right. A field army officer, obsessed with discipline, so obsessed it broke morale, communication failed, people died in combat.
Wow. Discipline's a good thing, but...
Became the thing. Or a woman, terrified of poverty after a tough childhood, married for money, didn't love the guy. Early divorce, faced the exact economic struggles she feared. Financial security became her idol.
Or the baseball players using steroids, chasing the Hall of Fame.
Right. Good goal, maybe. But the idol led to broken bodies, ruined reputations.
In every case, a good thing becomes the supreme thing, overrides everything else.
And then, poof, turns to dust. It seems like the better the thing, the more likely we are to expect everything from it.
So idols aren't usually bad things.
Almost never. They're often the best things in life, just twisted, out of proportion.
And this applies to ideas, too. Intellectual idols.
Absolutely. Like European intellectuals, late 19th, early 20th century. They were really sold on Rousseau's idea of innate human goodness.
That people are basically good. Problems come from bad systems or education.
Exactly. But then, World War II. The sheer horror of it shattered that illusion for many.
Like Beatrice Webb, architect of Britain's welfare state.
Yeah. She realized how permanent those evil impulses in humans really are. She had staked all on the essential goodness of human nature, she said.
And later saw you can't just fix it with social systems alone.
Right, or H.G. Wells. Praised human progress in 1920, but by 45, after seeing all the violence,
What do you say?
basically, Homo sapiens is played out, done.
They took a partial truth, human potential, and made it the whole truth.
Put it in the place of something higher, staked everything on it,
Yeah.
and it couldn't hold.
So zooming out, whatever controls us is our Lord.
In effect, yeah. If power consumes you, power controls you. If you desperately need approval, the people you seek it from control you.
And these idols dominate us, leading to maybe psychological issues, perfectionism, indecisiveness.
Often stems from that. Making good things into gods that then drive us into the ground trying to please them.
Okay, let's shine a spotlight on some key ones, starting with love, relationships, the romantic solution.
Right. Huge one. We all long for love, obviously. But modern culture, it
Right.
cranks it up to 11 almost divine levels.
You mean like in songs? The sources mention being alive from company.
Yeah, where the guy sings that only romance will make me alive, or Bewitched, where she knows he's a fool, but she's wild again, like a child.
It's portraying this total dependency. Life is meaningless without it.
Exactly. I remember early in my ministry, I met a woman, Sally. Beautiful. Used it to manipulate, then got manipulated by it.
How so?
Came to feel invisible, powerless, unless a man loved her. She just could not bear to be alone.
So she stayed in bad relationships.
Emotionally abusive ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Her whole identity was wrapped up in being desired.
Looking at ancient stories like Jacob, Rachel, and Leah.
Yeah.
Same dynamics.
Absolutely, with massive consequences. Remember Jacob's father, Isaac, favored Esau, even though prophecy said Jacob, the younger, would rule.
That favoritism led to Jacob tricking his blind father for the blessing.
And then having to flee for his life from Esau, family ruined, all from misplaced affection.
And then Jacob flees, meets Rachel.
Falls head over heels, works 7 years for her, gets tricked into marrying Leah, the older sister, instead.
Ouch.
Works another 7 years for Rachel. But that intense, almost worshipful love for Rachel, seeing her as his savior, it poisoned the whole family for decades.
Favoring Rachel's sons, embittering Leah's.
Exactly. It shows how destructive it is when you practically worship another person.
So that moment, Jacob wakes up, thinks he has Rachel, but in the morning, behold, it was Leah. What's the significance there?
Sources call it cosmic disillusionment. That inevitable letdown when finite things can't meet infinite expectations.
No matter how good something is, it's always Leah in the morning, not the perfect Rachel we imagine.
Pretty much. C.S. Lewis nailed it, right?
Yeah.
If we have a desire this world can't satisfy, maybe we were made for something more.
Something supernatural and eternal.
Yeah. So when you hit that wall of disappointment, what do? There are like 4 paths.
Okay, path 1.
Blame the things disappointing you. Keep searching for the next perfect thing. That's just more idolatry, a downward spiral.
Path 2.
Blame yourself. I'm a failure. Everyone else is happy. Leads to self-loathing, shame.
3.
Blame the world. Get cynical, hard, empty. Protect yourself from more hurt.
But there's a 4th way.
Yeah. Reorient your whole life toward a higher source of unconditional love, something beyond earthly limits.
And that's where Leah's story comes in, her breakthrough.
Exactly. After years of having sons, hoping each one would finally win Jacob's love, her last son, Judah, she says, this time I will praise the Lord. No mention of Jacob or the child securing love.
She shifted her hope.
Took her deepest hopes off her husband and kids, put them on God. She got her own worth back, separate from them.
That's powerful. The idea that divine love reaches for the unwanted.
Yeah, in that tradition, God is the true bridegroom, loving the unloved, the weak. Salvation comes through grace, not status or looks.
And that perspective can change how we approach relationships.
Totally. If you're single, it means finding that deep acceptance elsewhere. If you're married.
Don't put divine expectations on your spouse.
Exactly. Release them from that crushing weight. Don't love them less, but love that ultimate source more. Let them be human.
Freeze them up. Freeze you up.
Right. And this connects to the figure of Jesus in some traditions, seen as the man nobody wanted.
The son of Leah, spiritually speaking.
Kind of. Born poor, no beauty, abandoned by everyone in the end, taking on our brokenness.
The ultimate unwanted man for us.
Yes. And the idea is, when you're really moved by that kind of sacrificial love, it detaches your heart from other would-be saviors.
You stop trying to save yourself through work or relationship.
Because you're already accepted, already valued. You stop making other people into saviors because you have one.
That's the expulsive power of a new affection you mentioned. A bigger love pushes out the smaller, needier ones.
Precisely. Remember Sally, the beautiful woman?
Yeah, her counselor told her to get a career for self-esteem.
Right. And she said basically, no thanks. I don't want to swap one idle man's approval for another career success.
She wanted genuine freedom.
Exactly. Freedom from needing any external validation like that.
Okay, moving to another huge one. Money and success. The golden calf.
Yeah, Nietzsche predicted it, didn't he? With God fading, money would become the new God. The source of power, good conscience.
And we're often blind to our own greed, right? We compare ourselves to people just above us.
Always. My means are modest compared to them, even if you're living lavishly by global standards. Most Americans think they're middle class.
But people visiting from elsewhere are often shocked.
Staggered by what we see as basic necessities.
And Jesus warned about greed more than sex, apparently.
Way more often in the texts. Yet nobody thinks they're greedy. It hides itself, it's normalized. If you cheat on your spouse, you know it's wrong. But greed, oh wait, is this greed? Doesn't happen.
So how does money become a master? How does it affect identity?
Well, Jesus said life doesn't consist in the abundance of possessions. If your identity is your possessions, losing wealth means losing yourself.
Because your worth was tied to it.
Right? You cannot serve both God and money. When money's the idol, you love it, trust it, obey it, daydream about it, envy others who have more, it enslaves you.
Let's look at Zacchaeus again, the tax collector.
Despised guy. Short. Climbs a tree to see Jesus.
Which was a really undignified thing for a grown man to do back then.
Hugely embarrassing. Yeah. Especially for him. Shows desperation. He needed to see Jesus.
And Jesus walks by, ignores the respectable folks.
And singles out Zacchaeus, the biggest sinner there. Invites himself over for dinner, a huge sign of acceptance.
Outrageous to the crowd.
Totally.
Yeah.
But Zacchaeus welcomed him joyfully, put aside dignity, wealth, ridicule, just for that encounter.
And that changed him instantly.
Like lightning. He saw a different kind of acceptance, not based on performance. And boom, pledges to give away half his stuff.
Way more than the standard tithe.
And repay cheated money fourfold. Way more than the law required.
It shows how grace, that unconditional acceptance, fuels radical generosity, changes everything.
Absolutely. Now, connecting this, sources talk about deep idols under the surface idols.
Okay, explain that.
Deep idols are basic drives. Power, approval, comfort, control. They generate fears and hopes.
And surface idols are?
Money, spouse, kids, career. They're the way the deep idols try to get fulfilled.
So money could be a surface idol.
But why you want it depends on the deep idol. Control. You hoard it. Social access. You spend lavishly. Power. You use it to dominate. Same surface idol, different deep driver, different behavior.
Like that couple the pastor counseled. Spendthrift wife, miserly husband.
Yeah. He saw her selfishness in spending, but not his own selfishness in hoarding every penny for his own need for security and control, both driven by deep idols.
Achievement, too. Madonna's quote.
Horrible fear of being mediocre. Always pushing, always having to prove she's somebody. Never ends.
Like the sprinter in Chariots of Fire. More of an addict.
Or Sidney Pollack couldn't justify his existence if he stopped working. It's the alcohol of our time, one counselor said.
The high fades fast, you need another hit. Always chasing.
Self-esteem, always on the line. And it distorts your self-view.
Like the rich businessman dominating conversations, expert on everything.
Yeah. Success in one area makes you think you're wise in all areas. Bad choices follow. Blindness.
Chris Evert, the tennis player, terrified of retiring.
Petrified. Had no idea who I was away from tennis. Needed the wins, the applause for her identity. Lost without it.
And the cost to young people, choosing high-salary jobs without thinking about meaning.
Nathan Hatch observed that, asking what helps me flourish, not what helps people flourish, leads to empty work.
This brings us to Naaman, powerful, rich, decorated commander, had it all.
The designer life.
Yeah.
But he had leprosy.
A dead man walking. Success was useless against that. Alienation, despair.
The ultimate insider, made an outsider. It reminds you of Lewis's inner ring, doesn't it?
That desire to be one of the people who really know.
Success promises that, but Naaman shows it can't deliver real belonging. Many successful people still feel like outsiders.
And Naaman expected some big dramatic cure from Elisha.
Yeah, some great thing. Grand gestures. Instead, Elisha just says, go wash in the Jordan 7 times.
And Naaman was insulted. Angry.
Furious.
Yeah.
Any idiot can do that. It takes no skill.
Which is the whole point, right?
Exactly. Salvation, healing like this. It's available to anyone. Good, bad, weak, strong, no status required.
He wanted a tame God he could impress, put in his debt.
But this was a wild God of grace. Puts everyone in his debt. Naaman had to admit helplessness, receive it as a free gift.
Hard because it was easy. Humbling.
Until he learned that, he was stuck. Enslaved.
And the often missed hero, the slave girl.
Yes. Captured by Naaman's raiders, life ruined by him. Yet she chose forgiveness, not revenge. Became the channel for his healing.
Trusted a higher power, bore her suffering. Quiet compassion.
She paid the price of usefulness. Amazing strength.
So connecting it all, idols like success can't just be removed.
Have to be replaced.
Yeah.
By grasping that principle of unearned acceptance, your worth isn't your achievement.
So you don't need to do some great thing to prove yourself.
Your worth is already there. You can just wash, receive freely. Kills the addiction. True strength through weakness.
Okay, final category. Power and politics. The god that failed.
Evocative, yeah. Huizinga. Before WWII, we live in a world possessed, and we know it.
Like Nazism, started with love of country.
Became demonic, destructive, global devastation, or the French Revolution. Liberty, equality.
It was spiraled into the reign of terror, killed its own leaders.
Noble principles went insane when they became ultimate, absolute gods.
Yeah.
Achieved the opposite of their goals.
And a sign of this today is fear. Extreme reactions in politics.
Definitely. When your counterfeit god is threatened, you panic. It's the end.
Explains people wanting to leave the country if the wrong party wins.
It's a sign they've put ultimate hope in politics, leaders, policies. Hope once reserved for God. So when they lose power, it feels like death.
And seeing opponents not just as wrong, but as evil.
Another huge sign. Your own mother noticed that shift, right? It used to be the president was your president, even if you didn't vote for them.
Not so much anymore. That polarization, bitterness.
Powerful signs we've turned politics into a kind of religion. The other side is existential evil.
Al Wolter's idea. Political idolatry happens when something besides our inner brokenness is the main problem.
And something besides grace or God is the main solution.
Yeah.
Leads to demonizing things that aren't all bad, idolizing things that can't be the ultimate good, false solutions, endless conflict.
Niebuhr talked about nations having corporate egos.
America blinded by land of the free while practicing racism. Germany's post-WWI humiliation feeding Nazism power idolatry to restore national ego.
Slippery slope from patriotism to oppression when it becomes ultimate.
Exactly. Patriotism isn't evil. like a mother's love. But it needs balance, or it becomes unfair to others.
What about communism as a failed god?
Huge hopes for it for a century. Utopia via scientific socialism. Crushed after WWI.
Philosophers like C.E.M. Joad realized the Marxist view of evil as just circumstance was intolerably shallow.
Yeah, faced with Nazi and Stalinist horrors, led to that book, The God That Failed. Disillusioned communists describing how an ideology made absolute promises, demanded total commitment.
And delivered total disappointment.
And maybe after 08 or 09, we're seeing a similar question of free market capitalism, ascribing it godlike power.
Adam Smith's invisible hand may be deifying the market.
Some argue that, believing it just automatically works for good, without a moral code. Now, lots of critiques are emerging about its own ideological nature, its failings.
Niebuhr said we almost instinctively elevate some finite value to the answer.
Makes us feel we can fix things, makes opponents seem like fools or evil, blinds us. Marxists demonize capitalists, some conservatives demonize liberals. Reality's messy. Both systems have flaws, unintended consequences. Ideologues struggle to see good in the other side.
So when ultimate transcendent truth fades, something else fills the gap.
Sex, money, politics often jump in first. Explains our intense political climate. It goes back to that deep human search for meaning, trying to cover our feelings of powerlessness.
And the only way to really address it is to reevaluate where we put our ultimate hope.
Many sources suggest that. Which brings us to Nebuchadnezzar, most powerful man on earth, 6th century BC.
But anxious, fearful, couldn't sleep well.
Classic case. Niebuhr's idea again. Humans feel insecure, limited, so we grasp for a will to power, pretending we're not finite.
And so much is outside our control, isn't it? Birth, parents, talents, circumstances.
Like 95% maybe? We're not creators, we're creatures, dependent.
So Henley's poem Invictus, I am the master of my fate.
Niebuhr called it an enormous exaggeration, born of pride. Henley himself faced powerlessness when his daughter died. Never recovered, reportedly.
Power born of fear creates more fear, like Madoff.
Blamed his pride. Couldn't admit failure, hate weaknesses in the Ponzi scheme, couldn't face losing reputation. Power.
Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the giant statue. Human power and achievement idolized.
Glorious, powerful civilization, but shattered by a rock, not by human hands. God's kingdom transcending human power.
And the king actually humbled himself afterwards, confessed a higher power.
Prostrated himself. Huge shift from his usual pride. Our view of ultimate reality really matters. Believing God is distant lets us think we can be masters, keeps the idols going.
Like Eustace in Lewis's story, turning into a dragon because of his inner greed.
And Aslan, the Christ figure, has to painfully peel off the dragon's skin, the pride. Hurts terribly, but necessary to become human again.
Pride leads to losing our humanity, isolates us.
Distorts us. But the death of that pride can lead to resurrection, your real self emerging.
And Nebuchadnezzar experienced that. When he raised his eyes toward heaven,
his sanity returned. He became even greater than before. It's that pattern again. The way down is up, descending, losing power, serving, leads to true strength. Seen supremely in Jesus' story in that tradition.
So, okay, how do we find and replace our idols? They're hidden, complex.
Many-layered, yeah. Really hard to see in yourself or your culture without understanding these counterfeit gods.
Culturally, the hopes shifted from God to nation, now to
self. That's one analysis. This age of self, explaining the drive for individual profit, pleasure above all.
And if you're immersed in a culture where an idol is normal, it's almost invisible.
Nearly impossible. Think of Paul challenging the gods in Ephesus. It changed people's spending so much it caused a riot.
If modern folks, whatever they believe, are just as materialistic as everyone else,
maybe our understanding isn't really exposing the culture's idols effectively.
So the question isn't if we have rival gods. We all do. It's what do we do about them?
Right. One test. How do you react to unanswered prayers, frustrated hopes?
If you explode in anger or fall into deep despair,
might signal your real God, like Jonah's unwarranted and disproportionate anger over a thwarted desire.
Another test. Uncontrollable emotions. Anger, fear, despair, guilt that just won't lift.
Yeah. Like a fisherman looking for churning water. Look for your idols at the bottom of those painful feelings. Ask, is something too important here, something I must have?
Or am I beating myself up for failing at something I think is necessary but really isn't?
Exactly. Like Mary, the musician with depression.
Her idol was parental approval. If I'm not famous, I failed them, my life's a waste.
That false belief, driven by the idol, caused immense pain. When she started believing her worth wasn't tied to performance, she found relief.
And when people say, I know God forgives me, but I can't forgive myself.
Often means they've failed an idol whose approval matters more to them than God's.
Okay, so the crucial insight, idols can't just be removed.
They have to be replaced. Try to just uproot them, they grow back, maybe in a different form.
That's why traditions say put to death bad desires by setting your hearts on things above, focusing on the ultimate.
Yes. And that idea of rejoicing in the ultimate, it's not just happiness.
It's deeper, treasuring it.
Assessing its value, beauty, importance, until your heart rests in it. Then your heart can relax its grip on anything else it thinks that it needs.
Doesn't mean stop loving family, work, friends.
No. Love them more freely. Because you love the ultimate source so much more, you aren't enslaved by the earthly things. You love them without the compulsive neediness.
And practices help this. Reflection, community, meditation.
Spiritual disciplines, mindful practices. They take head knowledge and make it real in our hearts, our imaginations, aligning your deepest affections, your worship, with a truly worthy ultimate object. That's how you replace idols.
Like Jacob wrestling the stranger, that divine encounter.
The lightest contact lamed him permanently. Weakness. But he saw God's face and lived, was blessed there.
The crippling weakness led to transformation, made idols unnecessary.
Became an existential reality in his heart. It's that paradox. The most transformed, joyful people often limp as they dance for joy, marked by weakness, filled with peace.
Finding ultimate value and acceptance in that higher source frees us.
If you believe, as one source puts it, that Jesus sank in that storm of terror so I would not fear any other storm in my life,
then earthly storms can take things, even life, but not your true life, your ultimate worth.
That's the idea. Your value rests in him, not in the changing circumstances.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've looked at these counterfeit gods, good things turned ultimate, and how destructive they can be everywhere.
And seen, they can't just be wished away. They need replacing. By a deeper love, a deeper trust, a reorientation of our ultimate loyalties.
Let's leave listeners with that final thought from John Newton. It really hits home.
Yeah, he wrote, "To keep my eyes simply on Christ as my peace in my life is by far the hardest part of my calling."
Harder than outward actions.
It seems easier to deny self in 1,000 instances of outward conduct than in its ceaseless endeavors to act as a principle of righteousness and power. It's the inner battle for where our trust lies.
So the real freedom, the path to flourishing, it lies in constantly knowing and choosing where your heart's ultimate trust, preoccupation, loyalty, service, fear, and delight, where they truly reside, something to really mull over.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Pages to Dialogues. We hope you enjoyed our discussion and found valuable insights to apply to your life. If you did, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, Pages to Dialogues, for more thought-provoking dialogues on Christian books.